Are we then not gonna make a recommendation, just in case we might have been
No, no,
something?
we can make recommendations.
Have we had enough discussion? I think we have to make a recommendation.
I would just like to.
That's the pleasure of the board. Mrs. Bernard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to again make the point that if the villages do have a power to appoint or have a representative, I think we should consider having someone from an unincorporated area as a county representative. And I see a lot of good ideas and a lot of creativity with Mr. Bukowski. And that's all I want to mention.
I don't. Mr. Washington?
Move that we appoint John G. Prance, reappoint John G. Prance as a member.
Okay, so we're jumping ahead to the appointment to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. I have a motion to appoint John Brands. Is there a second to that? Mr. Lear with a second. Need a roll call vote on the appointment of John Brands. Say your name.
Mr. Bosser. Mr. Lear.
Call me last.
Mr. Lear.
Aye.
Ms. Barber.
Aye.
Ms. Bernard.
Aye.
Mr. James.
Nay.
Mr. LaJess.
Aye.
Mr. McLaren.
Aye.
Mr. Nicholas. Mr. Altough. Ms. Schmidt. Mr. Tripp.
Aye.
Mr. Vickery.
Nay.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Witt.
May I take back my vote?
I'm sorry?
Is it too late to take back my vote?
No. No.
Nay. Nay.
Mr. Bosser.
Aye. Motion for Mr. Brands carry 7-3. Okay, yes, Mr. LaJess?
I would like to reiterate, I think the consensus of the committee is that you do proceed with, in dialogue with the Convention Bureau about this gentleman.
Absolutely.
Yes. Could I perhaps have a motion to consolidate the appointments, reappointments on the rest of the items listed?
So moved.
Mr. Washington with the motion. Mr. McLaren with a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carries. So, reappointment of Janine Wolf to the Kankakee County Emergency Telephone System Board. Reappointment of Alice Argelin to the Will Kankakee Regional Development Authority. Reappointment of George Searles to the Kankakee County Public Building Commission for a 5-year term. The other two are 3-year terms. Reappointment of Don Rardin to the Kankakee County Farmland Assessment Review Committee for a 2-year term. Blooms Grove Cemetery Association, we have Gerald Benj, Vinnie Voges, Margaret Cliff for 4-year terms. On the backside, an appointment, Augusta Carter as a tenant on the Kankakee County Housing Authority Board for a 5-year term. Help me out, an appointment of Dr. Intelo to the Kankakee County Board of Health, 3-year term. I have a motion to make said appointments. Mr. McLaren with a motion, Mr. Washington with a second. Discussion? Mr. James? I'm sorry.
Thank you. I have a problem with the procedure we use in this. Every time we come up, it's a list of names and it's sort of like rubber stamp. I would be interested in knowing why we can't have them have to fill out a reapplication form.
Well, they do. Either we have a resolution from their respective authority, or they'll submit an application. If there's no challenge, or there's no other application,
I just wondered, because I never see those.
well, we didn't bring it today. They'll be attached to the resolutions for the full board meeting.
Thank you.
Did we vote?
No, we have voted.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Vacancies, or shall we say reappointments pending. We have a whole list of fire department districts, fire protection districts. Manteno, St. Anne, Pilot, Limestone, Moments, Grant Park, Otto, Kankakee, Essex, Bourbonnais, Cambrai, and Reading, all come up at once. So we will be publishing that notice. Resolutions and proclamations. I have attached to your handout a rough draft of a resolution in support of an improvement program for the Greater Kankakee Airport. This was an effort from the sheriff and myself to get a resolution in front of this committee so that we could pass it on to the full board. It probably needs some touching up and review by the state's attorney's office, I'm sure. The history on this is this. I know some of you probably have not heard this story, but with the advent of the stimulus package, there was a renewed interest and effort in seeing that the proposed improvements to the Kankakee Valley Airport be promoted in the way of a runway strengthening and widening project, as well as potential hangar space and taxiway that would lead to and would be part of the jail facilities at the airport. The application was submitted by the Alliance on behalf of the county and the airport authority to get that process moving. And in discussing with our legislators how best to promote this and advance this project, the suggestion was that the various governmental bodies around here need to indicate some support for the project. So that's where this is coming from. It's really an indication of support of the concept of the improvement at the airport. The application was submitted as part of the federal appropriation process in an effort to tap airport improvement funds. And so that process is underway. We've had extensive discussion with Congresswoman Halverson as well as State Senator Hutchinson, and in showing what the thought is on this project. And so therefore we are bringing this to the full board to show a sign of support. So I have a motion from Mr. Lear to approve, a second from Mr. Tripp on this motion. Discussion or questions? Mr. McLaren?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm certainly in support of this resolution. If I'm correct, the timing is very essential here. This has to be, we're trying to get all these ducks in order, because I mean, this has kind of come up kind of quickly, if I recall. And it's, I think it's very important to pass this on to the full board and be in support of it. I mean, I think this is just another opportunity or possibility of getting some more funds to get that airport improvements out there that are needed.
Jess?
I'm just curious, does there have to be any public hearings held or anything, or can the expansion go ahead without any hearings?
I believe whatever has to happen would be under the guise of airport authority, but I don't believe it would require hearings because there'd be no expansion. All we're talking about right now is a strengthening of the existing 6,000-foot runway. 6,000-foot runway would accommodate, as it says in the resolution, would accommodate some sizable aircraft. Anybody else?
Just take a
Motion and a second. Mr. Ann, did you have a?
Just a quick question, are there any costs to the county for this, or how much would the airport, any improvements that would be made, do we have any of the advancements, do we know how much it's gonna cost and who's gonna fund it?
The estimate that was submitted as part of the grant request was in the range of $20 million, $22 million.
For the
That would-
airport?
No.
For the airfield enhancements?
The runway enhancement, the hangar, the taxiway, electrical work has to get redone. At this point, it was real rough, and obviously further engineering needs to be done. course, all would have to be submitted to the FAA for approval. Mr. Wojciechowski?
I know I'm kind of windy today, I don't know why, but I think it would not only be beneficial to the federal prisoner program, but I would think strengthening those runways with those type of planes would, you know, maybe bring in some cargo, you know, and some warehousing, stuff like that, that may be beneficial to this area, because it has to be a hassle getting in and out of the northern airports.
That is the thinking, yes. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
No expense to us.
Thank you. One other item under new business, vending machine bids. What prompted this question was I had a vendor come in and was wanting to place another machine in the building. I got to asking the question, well, do we have contracts? How is it supposed to work? I guess we have to have a bidding process. Is that right, Mr. State's Attorney?
Yes.
So what's your pleasure? Do we go back out for bids, or do we just extend the existing contract? Yes, Mr. State's Attorney.
If I could make a suggestion, this is my second time down this particular road with vending machines.
Yes.
To me personally, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference, but I would recommend before you decide whether you're going to go out for bids, that between now and the next executive committee meeting, send an email to each of the department heads and find out their satisfaction level with the current machines and how often they're stocked, or whatever it is they're stocked with, and their location and number and all of that. We seem to have plenty at the courthouse, including the annex, but then again, I'm not using them on a regular basis, so.
Well, that's what prompted the discussion in this building. They came to me and said, geez, we'd like to have a little more, a better variety of food, soups and sandwiches and breakfast rolls, things like that. So that's what started the discussion. So, okay, that's a good point. We'll poll the department heads and see what their pleasure is, and come back next month. We'll start thinking about the RFP. We'll dust that off and see what the process is. So that was just an item for information.
If you hope for
I didn't
recommendation,
take a vacation. I went to a
take them all
town.
out and send the neighbors over to the refuge across the street.
That's all I had for agenda items. Perhaps one item, Mr. State's Attorney, do we want to update this group on the Supreme Court action yesterday morning? I sent out an email last night just giving the board a heads up, so I tipped our hand already.
Be happy to. As luck would have it, I have the, sorry Lee, I gotta put on my glasses here so I can actually see. I have the most recent supervisory order from the Illinois Supreme Court with regard to our lawsuit involving Town and Country. I think what we currently refer to as Town and Country 2. For those of you who aren't aware or can't recall, you as a group authorized us to file a petition for leave to appeal to the Illinois Supreme Court. You'll also recall that at that meeting I told you the Supreme Court can do all sorts of things. They can grant the petition and do this or that. They could deny the petition and send it back to the appellate court, or even to the Pollution Control Board. And despite Mr. Helston's protestations that they would never do that, and I said, you know, I understand they're never going to do that, but I think we ought to be thorough and tell the board it's a possibility, because that's going to cost us money. Well, as luck would have it, good or bad, they have denied our appeal. They have denied our petition for leave to appeal, and instead have issued a supervisory order back to the appellate court. You recall I told you that when the appellate court issued its last order, that was the appellate court's way of saying, we don't want to play with you anymore, shut up, we were right. This supervisory order, I believe, is the Supreme Court's way of saying, you don't get the last word on this, and you didn't do what we told you to do, now go do it the right way. They have directed them to reconsider their decision, directed them first to determine whether the 2002 application was disapproved within the meaning of the statute. If it was, then they should consider the effect of the board, meaning the Pollution Control Board's failure to consider the substantial similarity issue. You'll recall that our position has been all along that these are substantially similar applications and therefore it must fail. The Pollution Control Board, according to the Illinois Supreme Court, did not sufficiently take that issue up. They are then directing the appellate court that if they find out that it wasn't substantially similar, they can and should remand it back to the Pollution Control Board or issue a decision that says they took it up sufficiently and it either is or is not substantially similar. They went on to tell the appellate court that they will not, and they underline that, not issue a summary order. They went on to tell the appellate court, quote, the appellate court will not be flippant in its decision, but will act with the utmost decorum and give the issues the attention and consideration they deserve. The appellate court will address the issues thoroughly and completely. The final thing of importance that they said was failure to comply with this supervisory order, and then in emphasis, in all respects, will result in the appellate court's decision being summarily vacated and the cause remanded to a different panel of justices.
Wow.
Now, yes, everybody has the exact same reaction. I've been practicing law since 1989, and I have never seen the Supreme Court or an appellate court dress down another jurisdiction in that fashion. This is a first. Clearly, the Supreme Court was not happy with the appellate court's attitude in their last order. I wish I could tell you what this means specifically. I can't. It means the appellate court will now either look at it briefly and send it back to the Pollution Control Board, and we start back to square two, since the citing hearing would be square one, or they will take it up in earnest and make a determination. Keep in mind that they have once said that the decision of the Pollution Control Board was inappropriate. The next time they heard it, they said the decision of the same decision was appropriate. So they are now, they've sufficiently ridden the fence. The other choice I guess they have is to respond in similar fashion to the last time, and we'll see what happens. I find it interesting that the Supreme Court has suggested they will exercise their authority and appoint the case to 3 additional justices. So that you know, I believe it's 7 justices at each appellate court level, and while they hear the case, what we refer to as en banc, only 3 of them actually participate in the decision. In this case, what the judges are saying, what the justices at Springfield are saying is, those 3 won't be allowed to give an opinion. It'll have to be three different justices. So, I suspect at a minimum, this means this case will not be resolved, at least during Mr. Bossert's initial term as chairman. I really feel that we are 24 to 48 months out now, absent some significant activity by the appellate court.
Okay. What is going to be the added cost to us, or will there be any at this time?
As far as added cost goes, a lot of that will depend on the actions of the appellate court. The appellate court has the right to take this order and do exactly what they're told, which is reconsider it and reissue an opinion. They can do that and tell the parties, we don't want to hear from you. That cost us any more money. Or they could tell them, we want new briefs, we want new oral arguments. They could send it back to the Pollution Control Board, which if they do that, the Pollution Control Board would have the same choices. And the Pollution Control Board, I believe in this circumstance, would have the right in some fashion to, I don't want to say reopen evidence, but certainly hear new arguments, new briefs. Then when it goes back to the appellate court, presuming that either party would appeal the Pollution Control Board's decision, then absolutely we would have more briefs, more oral arguments, presuming again that the appellate court decision, whatever it is appealed by the losing party, back to the Illinois Supreme Court, more arguments, more decisions, if the Illinois Supreme Court determines that it's right. So the cost will be completely determined first by the courts as to what action they'll take, and then by the parties as to what actions they'll take.
Didn't I hear Mr. Helton say though that no matter what route it took, 80,000 would be the top that we'd have to be responsible for?
That was up to the Supreme Court.
Well,
Yes. Now, that's what he said.
yeah.
I believe that, you know, my position right now is, I'd like to hold him to that. Whether we'll be able to, based upon the actions, I don't know. I'll be quite honest with you, I don't think anybody anticipated this. So, we're gonna see where it goes, and, you know, the cost is what the cost is. I presume, just so everybody's aware, I presume that as this goes on a regular basis, again, I will be coming before you to tell you what the status is, what the future is, and asking the full board, do you wish to continue? And at each and every time, I'm sure costs will be discussed, but be prepared for that. This is not over, and since it's not over, my job is going to be continuing to get from you, I don't want to say consent, but certainly your opinions as to whether this litigation should continue, and you'll get all the information you need at each and every interval to make that determination.
Mr. Vickery?
Well, I think we made the right decision to go to the Supreme Court, because Mr. Helston indicated in his presentation here that he thought that they were flippant, and they had not thoroughly discussed the case, or had not really looked at that case. And that he was very adamant about that. And I tell you what, I don't think the town and country is very happy right now, because they're, as Mr. Boyd has pointed out, we're 48 months out probably from a decision. It could be. And if I was on that side of the case, I certainly wouldn't be very happy with these developments. So I think the board's done the right thing, moving in that direction. As far as cost, it'll be spread out over the next 4 or 5 years. It's not going to be. I don't know. We've been down that road, and most of the discovery has been done. So I mean, you know, I think this decision only justified what we did, and like I said again, once again, town and country shouldn't be very happy about this. Thank you.
I talked to Helston yesterday too, and that was kind of his characterization of town and country's attorney. Can I ask, the first statement in their order here is that they have vacated the appellate court's prior order. Does that mean town and country no longer has a permit?
The easy answer is I don't know. I'll be dead honest with you. The argument can certainly be made, and should be made from our position, that if town and country begins to actively develop based upon their belief that they have a valid permit, that we would take action in the circuit court to stop it. Keep in mind, they vacated the judgment of October 10, 2008. And as I recall, that was, I'm trying to get my papers together here, that was for lack of a better phrase, that was the rather smarmy opinion that came down from them, where they said, we've reconsidered it, and, you know, this is where you lose. We did, you know, you wanted us to, and we did. You wanted us to, and we did. In essence, it could be argued that that means the prior opinion of approval, when it was at, keep in mind, we won, so to speak, reconsideration was requested. Upon reconsideration, we lost. After we lost, we petitioned the Supreme Court for the supervisory order. asking for clarification on why we lost. The supervisory order went to the appellate court asking for clarification, and the appellate court said, well, we'll clarify it for you. You're wrong here, and you're wrong here, and you're wrong here, and we're right, and we're right, and we're right. The order that has been vacated is that order in response to the supervisory order. Now, whether that in essence vacates the previous judgment of reconsideration, I can't tell you right now without doing some more research. I think this, if they were to attempt to do work, you would see both the appellate court and the Supreme Court take some sort of action on an almost immediate basis, given the history of this particular case. So we're on good footing for stopping it if they do try to act.
Anybody?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, this is kind of a setback, but it isn't, because the Supreme Court was really adamant in telling them, you do this the right way or we'll reassign it to somebody else. So I was really pleased to see that. I'm still feeling optimistic that we can prevail, because especially if we're looking at 24 to 48 month window, that'll give time for the Lake County project to be up and running, which I think is going to impact the development of this. And even if it goes all the way back to the Pollution Control Board, I think we'll be okay, because when this was approved, Phil Novak was the chairman, and he had given $25,000 to Blagojevich. It was in the Chicago Tribune. So I think there were some other considerations that the Pollution Control Board used at that time to I don't want to say grease, but to kind of get this thing through, even though the science is bunk, okay? So I think even if it goes back to the Pollution Control Board, I'm optimistic we can prevail, because the ultimate test is the consequences of this landfill going through and what it does to our water. Most of us, probably all of us in this room, will be gone. So, you know, but it's really important that this is carefully scrutinized and that science is the basis, not politics for, you know, whatever happens to this development. Thanks.
Again, I talked to Helston yesterday, and he didn't view this as a setback, so that's...
Yeah. I think we're going to be okay, yeah.
Well, anybody else? Mr. Washington?
I'd like to remind this committee and the board that even though we engage in some great arguments and disagreements, that the ultimate knowledge and the ultimate outcome of what this board decides shows that we are marching in the right direction.
Thank you. Anybody else? That's all I have for information. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, just one last thing if I could. Sorry, I'll make it quick, I promise. I was just thinking about this in light of with the Convention of Visitors Bureau. We're doing appointments that are county-wide, and other municipalities have a seat on there. Should we look at maybe making it a requirement or qualification that they come from an unincorporated area? I was just throwing that out there for food for thought, so.
I think that could be a consideration if we truly have an open seat or a vacancy and we're starting from scratch. Take it under
All in favor, say aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned.